Hey guys, it's Tyler. The last stream I did with Max, don't lie, I didn't see Crispy there, but Samuel G brought up some very interesting points about combat, and I could make a million videos, and probably will, about combat in tabletop RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, spin-offs, etc. But there's one big point that is missing here. And a couple of the creators correctly point out that combat is the main focus of the Dungeons and Dragons rule set. Look through any edition, this is true. Most of the rules, at least 50% plus, are about combat. And yet combat is a slog a lot of the times. Why is that? It's actually for a pretty simple reason, but it's one that snake oil salesmen will try to sell you a supplement here, or a splat book there, or this method, or please watch this video that includes an ad, and miss the part where you have a combat system that is both designed by and run by people who do not understand combat. And I'm not talking about this from a simulationist point of view, though we can find videos about that on my channel, of course. I'm talking about it more from a role-playing point of view. Because what is a fight? Well, why does combat break out? A fight is one person or a group of people trying to enforce their will over another person or group of people. Or an animal, or a force of nature occasionally. Although really, unless we're talking like elementals in the fantasy sense, not really that last one, it's not really combat. So, why are we having the fight in the first place? What do people fight for? What is built into the character, be that an NPC or an animal, which is also an NPC, you know, it's a character, but, or the player character, that brings them to choose violence to solve the problem. So, we've got that barrier in the first place. Why are we even having combat? Most people don't choose to fight. And of course, it's fantasy. Yes, you're not always going to play like most people, and I would argue that, yeah, you should play extreme people sometimes and choose violence more often than you would in real life. Sure, great. But understand how fiction tends to play these things, even. It doesn't have to be simulationist, like I said. Just look at, well, combat scenes. One, they don't tend to take long, but that's kind of missing the forest for the trees. Yes, the combat's really long, and when it's really, really long, your 45-minute turns, or 45-minute rounds, yeah, that's a problem. But having really fast combat, this obsession with speeding things up, yeah, because a real fight scene in a movie is really fast, right? That's what makes it exciting. Well, no, you can look at something like Taken 3, Taken 2, the 8 million sequels to Taken that there were, and see that the combat's really fast. It's really bad because it's cut up, it's choppy, you can't see any of the action that's going on. And that's what happens whenever you break from character and start looking up rules, start doing this other stuff. You're effectively putting a cut in the action. So you start, I swing my sword at the guy's wrist as he's swinging at me, trying to intercept and cut his hand off, right? And then you open the book and go, well, okay, you need to do a called shot, and you take a -5 to that. It's like, oh, I take a -5 to called shot. No, I have a feat that gives me a +2, so I only would take a -3 to called shots. Oh, okay. Does he get an attack of opportunity when you do that called shot? Oh, I'm not sure. Let me check. Yeah, he does. Wait, what were we doing again? You know, it's the effect of like you've got a DVD that's skipping, or you know, these, again, just the cinematography is horrible. It's just cut. And I'm not talking about cinematography for the audience. I'm talking about for everybody at the table so that it flows smoothly, so that you're not having to constantly remind people what's going on, so that you as the DM don't have to re-narrate what just happened because so that you're clear on what it even was that was happening. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here, recovering from the tail end of the flu. This is a big frustration of mine. And it has to, so yes, it has to do with pacing one. Yes, it has to do with the slog that is, you're getting into combat all the time for reasons that don't really make any sense because, well, if all the rules are combat, you're going to find yourself getting into combat a lot. So that can be a system issue as well. But lastly, I will touch on the simulationist aspect of things, maybe not in a way that you're expecting, but in the psychological effect of things. Something that Crispy mentioned before I came into the stream, and something that I said independently of it, we both mentioned that you tend to play psychopaths when you're playing these Dungeons and Dragons games. And if you're doing that intentionally, that can be cool and interesting. But a lot of times people aren't doing it intentionally. Let me give an example. When's the last time you saw somebody play a game and win a combat encounter? No problem. It was an unbalanced combat encounter. The player characters blew through it. They just slaughtered this group of bandits that were super underleveled or unprepared. They snuck up on them, under-equipped, whatever the case may be. And so many DMs will complain, oh, it's so hard to balance encounters. My players just are too powerful. There's too much power creep, right? As a game, that could be a problem, sure. But think about this. You as a DM describe that the player has, just hacked this bandit clean through to the neck and gotten stuck halfway through on one of the vertebra, and the guy's choking, blood spurting out, and he hangs on for like a few seconds before eventually slumping to the ground, and your sword's still stuck in there. So then the character is having to like wrench his sword out of the still barely technically alive guy. It's like, great, you won the encounter. It was an easy encounter. It was an easy fight. Is it going to be easy to deal with that? Maybe this guy who's good at fighting is the thing he's best at even, he's the fighter class, gets into a fight like that and finds out that's not fun. I don't like this, actually. Even though it's the thing that I'm really good at, I don't like doing it. Maybe he only likes fighting when it's a fair fight. Maybe he'll only fight at all now if he absolutely has to. Then he simply won't get into, fights against bandits. He'll just give him his money. He'll just, Maybe you could role play waking up in a cold sweat, in a night terror. And as your character is leveling up and getting bravery, like in 3.5 or Pathfinder, you can role play, becoming hardened, maybe on the more heroic side, more hardened and, able to face that fear. Or maybe on another side, becoming jaded, becoming more callous around life, becoming more willing. That's this character development that we want out of a campaign, right? But we never see that. Character development in a campaign becomes, my sword looks different, I can do different cool flourishes in combat. And if you're describing them, that can be cool, that can be fun. But understand why you're fighting. Understand how the psychology of a fight affects somebody. If you're able to prepare for a fight, if you know a big fight's about to come up, understand adrenaline dumping. Understand that the getting hyped up for a fight and then the fight doesn't happen, and that can kind of drive you crazy. You can be exhausted from a fight that never happened, just because your body has been, pumping adrenaline going, okay, I'm ready. And then it's like, turns out you're just talking to some guy and, you're super anxious and panicked and you're almost having a panic attack maybe. That could be fun to role play. I've never done that, but it's just something I'm thinking about right now. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that I don't know if you'll end up thinking about if you've never been in a fight before. And a lot of people in the modern day, for which this is a good thing, have never been in a fight before. Now, I think people should be in simulated violence a lot more. I think people should take martial arts and spar. But yeah, it's a negative side effect of a good thing, which is that, well, you know, maybe if you've never been in a fight before, or if you've never talked to people who have been in fights before, maybe don't jump to the I was gonna say to the typewriter, like people are doing that still. Maybe don't jump to the keyboard to start writing up a combat section, right? Even if it's not fully simulationist, because you're gonna miss out on all this interesting stuff that isn't the mere, Robert McNamara numbers war of one fist hit him in the face 17 times and his opponent only landed 12 strikes, so he won the fight. And meanwhile, the guy that got punched more at the end of the fight is like psychologically okay because he's proven something to himself. He was just there to prove that he could stand toe to toe with another man at the end of the fight. And the other guy, even though he won the fight, is like, dealing with the fact that his family hates that he's fighting. Maybe is, dealing with injuries just from those few punches that landed. Is terrified of one day losing and not living up to his friends and his promoters and his coaches' expectations. I'm just rattling stuff off the top of my head here. I don't have scripts. So, heavy prep guys, I'm expecting a lot from you heavy prep guys out here. Prep thinking about stuff like this, not about, whether or not the wizard's shooting out a fucking blue fireball or a red fireball. Because that's the equivalent. That is effectively what half of the spells in Dungeons & Dragons are. Is what flavor of, do you want the cotton candy flavor or the blue raspberry flavor to a spell to kill this goblin? Not even questioning why you're killing the goblin in the first place. So, yeah. Let me know if any of that was helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. And if these short form videos that sort of add or summarize a stream that we just did are helpful to you guys, or if it's just repetitive and you're like, dude, I caught the stream. Yeah, I think I catch some people that don't watch this huge stream. And that one especially was like a 5-hour long stream. So, all right. That's all for today. Take care. Thanks.